right, ladies and gentlemen, this is our first free webinar for this year and not the last in case you thought you've missed anything. And we're excited to share lots of proposal management know-how with you on this journey towards proposal development. Now, I'm Izaan Kluter-Hamilton. I'm from Enfold and I'm the Chief Inspiration Officer. Enfold, if you did not know, is a strategic pitch and proposal consultancy. And we're also the only APMP-approved training organization in sub-Saharan Africa. I am an APMP certified proposal professional, and I love this developing and growing skills in the proposal industry. Not enough people know about it. And that's one of our missions, is to grow with great people. My co-host today is my colleague, Alfreda Kotze. She's actively promoting bid profession and has a very deep understanding of the challenges that we as bid professionals face. Good morning, Alfreda. Thank you so much for sharing your proposal insights with us today.
Good morning, Izaan. It is so wonderful to be here today and explore with you the essence of a winning proposal. I'm really looking forward to this webinar, and I'm really happy to see that we have so many people that have joined us this morning.
To find out how to deal with these compliance challenges. But before we get into the detail of compliance, what is your story, your background, and how you landed in proposals? Because everybody I talk to has a story about how we landed in this wonderful profession.
Well, Izaan, my journey started in 1999. Bids and proposals wasn't really a job back then. My very first proposal I did was really chaotic. I was a marketing assistant at an IT company. It seemed that back then everybody worked in IT. And I knew absolutely nothing about proposals. At that time, the company I worked for, they have never submitted a proposal before. We were so ill prepared for what we had to do. And on the day of the submission, I remember this clearly. I still get a little bit of heart palpitations when I think about this. My manager was driving at breakneck speed down the highway on the N1, while I was still trying to put the last bits and pieces of the proposal into the files. Now, just imagine that. And I can honestly say that since then, I've made it my mission to never, ever be in a similar situation again, because that to me was just frightening.
You know, there's more than just a few of us with similar hairy stories. I used to tell my kids when they were growing up that life is too short to make all the mistakes yourself. Learn from others. So based on your hairy experience, what advice do you have for young bid professionals?
If there's one thing, and I think it's not just for young bid professionals, because as we all become more experienced with bidding, we sometimes forget the basic stuff. And I can honestly say, be proactive and be prepared. One of my favorite authors is Stephen Covey. He's an American educator and author of the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, for those who don't know about him. And he states that the first habit you must cultivate to be effective, and this is in your life and in business, is to be proactive. And then following on from that is to begin with the end in mind. So how does that translate to proposal management? If you think about it, when you decide to go for an opportunity, you have to be proactive and find out as much as you can about the client and the opportunity. This will help you understand what your client wants, what their pain points are, and how to align your offer with their needs. When the RFP lands on your table, you are prepared, and then you literally begin with the end in mind. Then you plan the details of your successful submission. And the sad thing is, And we only learn this by actually going through the process. And I recall again my situation in the backseat of a vehicle driving at breakneck speed down the N1 highway. If you are not proactive and you have not properly prepared yourself, you are setting yourself up for failure, and that is a fact.
Yeah. What is it? We say proper planning prevents poor proposals. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But so today our topic is the essence of a winning proposal and overcoming compliance challenges. Now, when I think about compliance, there's a couple of things that pop into my head, because you get legal compliance and statutory compliance and solution compliance and operational compliance, and then you have internal compliance, the things that my company expect me to do when I respond to it. And then there's the external compliance, the things that the client is asking me to do. So which part of compliance are we talking about today?
Well, Izan, our main focus will be on external compliance, what you need to do to get your proposal through the first gate and set yourself up for a win. But internal compliance is as important, because in the end, companies, corporates, doesn't matter the type of business you are in, they have got certain risks that they've got to mitigate, and compliance is part of that. Ensuring that the company is legally and what's the word, ethically not transgressing or breaking the law. So all of that
Your internal
compliance,
GRC
yes,
requirements,
absolutely.
governance, risk, and compliance.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All of that
Okay.
is important at the end of the day, and they all play a part in creating a winning solution for you and for
But
your
we're
client.
focusing on the external.
We are focusing more on the external compliance today, because I'm not a risk specialist at all.
That would be risky.
That would be risky, and indeed, yes.
What exactly is a winning proposal in the context of compliance?
Well, Izan, a proposal in its very basic form is a document, okay, that outlines a solution to a problem that a client has. This is an important tool that help you win more work, and important, and people forget that, secure the sustainability of your business. So it's a very important document because it helps you grow your business. It's also an opportunity to showcase your skills, your experience, and how you understand your clients' needs. And it demonstrates why you are the best fit for this project or contract or service agreement, whatever it is that you are tendering for. So the word, in essence, if we look at the word essence, is the crux or the core. And for me, the essence of a winning proposal is to communicate the value and the benefits of your solution clearly and effectively to your potential client. So this includes, and I'm sorry if I'm going on, but I have to explain this. This includes highlighting how your proposal will address the very specific needs and goals of your client's organization. It will demonstrate your expertise and your qualifications, and it will outline a clear and realistic plan for implementation and success. And that is very important. Your plans for your project must be realistic and it must be clear, because at the end, it translates to a project plan that someone has to implement. And additionally, a winning proposal should be well organized. So make it easy for your client to find the information. It should be visually appealing. So make it nice to read, to interact with, use all the visual tools and the writing tools available to you. And very important, tailor to your specific audience and to the decision makers. So it's important to understand understand your competitive landscape that you operate in, and to show your client how your proposal stands out from all the others, because clients receive a lot of proposals. However, And all of this, compliance and responsiveness, are the two core components, and you should never neglect them.
Okay, yeah. Before we continue, Alfreda, I'm just seeing in the chat that there's some questions about the video on my screen as message will continue shortly. Is anybody else? I just want to check from the delegates. Are you seeing myself and Alfreda, or are you seeing something else on screen?
We are seeing you and Alfreda. I think it is signal problems on the recipient side. Your signals are clear.
Okay, thank you very much. Just checking that you're seeing our beautiful faces. All right. I mean, I did put on lipstick and earrings, so.
Me too, me too.
All right. So, Alfreda, you talk about compliance and responsiveness. What exactly, what do you mean? Why are these two things important?
The answer to that is really very simple. And it's this: you can't win it if you're not in it. If you
that why I'm never winning the lotto? It's because I don't buy tickets.
Because you don't play it, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. But what you're saying is that a winning proposal, because why would you respond to a tender or write a proposal if your goal is not to win it? So a winning proposal needs to be compliant and responsive. Why compliant and responsive? Why is this so important? Why not just the one?
They work together. So compliance and responsiveness, as I've stated over and over again, is the essence. Without these two in your proposal clearly demonstrate that you stand no chance of winning. It doesn't matter how good your cover letter is. It doesn't matter how good your graphics are. If you haven't demonstrated compliance and you are not responsive in your proposal, you are not going to win at all.
But what is compliance and responsiveness?
Okay, let me explain that. So let's start then with compliance. Compliance demonstrates that you understand all the requirements that the client stated in the RFP and that you can meet them. And it's not just in the RFP. Sometimes something comes up in the clarification meeting as well. Okay. So you need to be aware of that there might be those pieces of information. It also shows, and this is important, and people don't think of compliance like that. It's important. It shows that you are professional and that you take your client's needs very seriously. So let's break that down a bit more. Proposal compliance is in fact a process of making sure, and listen to what I'm saying, it's a process of making sure that your submission meets all the stated requirements that your client asks for in its RFP. And what does process imply? It's not something you do, boom, and now you're done. It's something that continues. So while you work on your proposal, you will continuously check that you are still compliant.
Okay.
Then you need to make sure that all required information and documentation is provided in your submission. And that is why it's so important to read your RFP. And this will come up again. You have to make sure that you know what is in the document. Don't assume. Don't make assumptions. It will cost you. And then format and present your proposal in the correct manner that your client is asking for.
So compliance is ticking the box. Let me understand this correctly, it's maybe a little bit more, but compliance is what you said is that I understand and meet all the requirements exactly like the client has stated it in your RF or in his RFP. You mentioned formatting and presenting. Can formatting really be a compliance requirement? Isn't formatting just look and feel and making it look pretty?
It's not making it look pretty.
Fasting.
Formatting is can absolutely be a compliance requirement, particularly if you work with donor funding agencies. They will often ask that you submit on an A4 portrait that may not exceed 50 pages. And this is very important because nothing in your proposal can then be a landscape or an A3 or go past the 50 pages. So and why do they do that? I mean, it's a strange thing, one would think. It helps them to evaluate more effectively. It also gives you the opportunity to create a really compelling and concise proposal. So do away with copious amounts of useless information. If you can see how understanding the needs of your clients beforehand, being proactive, being prepared, will help you in this instance. Because now you can really say, okay, this is what we need to put in our proposal to make it compliant, to make it responsive, and make it a winning proposal, and not waste our evaluators' time.
Okay, all right. So what you're saying is that if you don't have an understanding of the needs, you cannot create a responsive proposal.
Exactly.
But I still don't understand. Okay, so we understand what compliance is, but then what is responsiveness?
Responsiveness is you show your client that you are engaged with them and that you are interested in their project, in the project that you are doing for them or the service that you are offering to them. It shows them that you are willing to collaborate with them and that you are able to adapt to their needs. To be responsive, you must be able to articulate and very clearly articulate how your solution will meet your client's needs. If a client is asking for a lawnmower that can cut grass automatically and you provide them with a lawnmower that needs to be pushed by someone, yes, you've complied, you've supplied a lawnmower, but you're not being responsive. Because they've asked for a lawnmower that operates on its own and you're giving them something that someone needs to push, and that's not being responsive.
So sorry, responsiveness is compliance and more.
And more, yes.
It's compliance plus the way I'm demonstrating, not just that I comply, but that I understand why they asked this question and how my compliance is addressing their needs beyond what they've stated. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So how do I then ensure that my proposals are compliant and responsive? Because clearly I need to do both.
Well, begin with the end in mind, okay? Thoroughly review your client's requirements. Read your RFP and create a clear understanding based on what information you gathered from the RFP, from pre-bid meeting notes, and from clarification questions. And I often hear that people say, "Oh, there's not enough time to do this," and you know, it's obvious what they want. You are really setting yourself up for a lot of stress. If you don't read your RFP, don't understand your client's requirements, don't ask them what it is that they mean, don't gather additional information, don't apply what you already know based on pre-bid meeting notes and clarification questions. It's a very important piece of the puzzle, Izan, and we shouldn't sweep it off the table. You will not be able to complete your proposal picture, your puzzle, without that. And how else will you know what to submit if you don't go through your RFP thoroughly, if you don't spend time with it? You also need to be agile and willing to make changes to your proposal if the client requests it. Don't rush this part. Make sure your proposal is easy to understand, that it addresses all the client's concerns. Plan enough time. And I cannot state that enough. Plan enough time to check and review compliance and your responsiveness. Because we don't often plan properly, this last bit of reviewing our compliance and responsiveness often catches us unawares and loses us a deal. We use a lot of time and we spend a lot of creative energy on the process of creating a proposal. Your time is valuable, so do not neglect these two core components.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's like wanting to travel abroad and they're not checking whether your passport is still valid. You've got your bags packed, you're at the airport, and then, oops. So is there a way that we can ensure compliance, considering that RFPs from our clients are all different? Is there a structure, a template, a toolbox? Is there something that we can use to make sure all our responses are compliant?
So the proposal profession has progressed since 1999, and I'm very thankful and grateful for that. A lot of work has gone into creating what we now know as best practices. A lot of professionals from across the world gave their inputs, and the Association of Proposal Management Professionals created you can call it a toolbox of how to do things. So it's best practices. And this is a very good guide on what the things are that you need to look out for when you create a proposal. And if you want to make sure that you are constantly hitting the compliance, yes.
Okay. So what is in this APMP knowledge toolbox when it comes to compliance? What tools do we have? Hammers and spanners and screwdrivers and, well, that's as much as I know.
Something like that. Something like that. Threads and scissors and glue and all staples and all sorts of things. No, but seriously, there's 6 basic compliance best practices that they have developed for us. So the first one would be to cultivate responsiveness long before the RFP is released. So do you see how being proactive and beginning with the end in mind falls into that?
Proper planning.
Absolutely. Have a
Okay.
relationship with your customer. And I know that's not always easy. Get a clear understanding of their underlying needs and gather customer intelligence. It might be difficult in some industries, might be easier in other industries.
How would you suggest then that we gather customer intelligence when we don't have the opportunity to always build a relationship with a client?
Well, fortunately for us today in 2023, we have a hyper digital world. I wish I had that back in 1999. Information is available for us everywhere. The internet, websites are always a great source of information. You can do a lot of research, even social media platforms, depending on the industry that you're bidding for. And then your sales teams or your business development teams, they often have information that they don't realize can be important. So build a relationship, just, I guess, not only with your customer, but also with those teams within your organization, if you are sitting in the proposal function, to gather that information that will help you build a picture of your client.
Okay. Right, that sounds good. But then you mentioned six best practices. What are the other 5?
Okay, so the second one is to thoroughly review and clearly understand your customer's bid request. See the word review, so that means you need to plan for it. As I stated earlier, make sure you put in enough time to review your compliance and your responsiveness. Again, read your RFP, read it 3 times, and understand what is being asked. Then only do you go and build a bid outline. Don't sprint and get to writing. You are setting yourself up for failure. You will rewrite later on, and that can be very costly and it's not efficient. Remember, your time is valuable. You don't want to spend it on constantly rewriting because you didn't do your planning properly.
I guess if you didn't have time to do it right first time, where are you going to get the time from to do it again?
Exactly. There won't be time and it'll be a mess. Then
so that's two. That's cultivate responsiveness long before. That's your proactiveness.
Yes.
Then it's the second one you mentioned is to thoroughly review and clearly understand the customer's bid request.
Yes.
What's number 3?
Prepare.
Again.
Prepare. Yes, prepare. Prepare a comprehensive compliance matrix for every bid. So this is where the start with the end in mind comes in as well. And you use a compliance matrix as a plan. Doesn't matter the size of your bid. Create a compliance matrix, extract the components of what is required and place it in this matrix. Create it early and update it as you go along. So that is being agile. If requirements change, adapt to that, add it to your compliance matrix. But keep that matrix because it is sort of your roadmap on what needs to get done in your proposal. And it's very easy if you are really in the thick of things and working with your proposal to forget this. So the compliance matrix keeps you honest.
I believe that you've prepared an example or a template for us on a compliance matrix.
Yes, there is a example and it can be downloaded from the webinar information, or you can also go to Enfold's website to download it there, but we will share it with all the participants today.
All right. So now I've prepared this compliance matrix. What next? What's the fourth one?
Submit your response matrix with your proposal. Why wouldn't you do that? You've gone, I know, it sounds weird, hey? But why wouldn't you?
Something for me, now I need to submit it.
You have spent time and energy on this matrix.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a tick box. It is a wonderful tool. And it's not just a roadmap for you that keeps you honest. It also helps your evaluators. It's a roadmap that helps them navigate through your proposal. And it's a very interesting and smart way to influence your evaluator in a very subtle way, because you're making it easy for them to work with your proposal. So the easier they find information in your proposal, the more I think they'll be willing to maybe give you a higher score. And it's not being unethical, but it's just helping them to get their work done quicker and easier.
Okay. You've mentioned this a few times now, that we need to make it easy for the evaluator to find the information they're looking for. And then this compliance matrix, first of all, help me to make sure that I tick, 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 tick. Then it helps the evaluator to find that. Okay. What happens if I'm not compliant?
Yeah, so you have to show how you are not compliant and provide justification for it. But better beware. Non-compliance is a very risky strategy. There's no guarantee. If you show that you're not compliant with something, the chances that you will be thrown out is very big, even if you do explain. So if you don't make the criteria, my suggestion or my advice would be, don't waste your company's time, don't waste your time. We all know that bids cost a lot of money to prepare. So rather than just stop it there, and unless there is really a compelling reason to continue with that, I wouldn't use non-compliance, or I wouldn't use non-compliance as a strategy.
But we need to address it. So that would be one of the tools in the toolbox, is to address non-compliance. All right. And then the sixth tool in our toolbox.
My favorite.
What would that be?
My favorite. Maintain a customer focus. And that is in a way also where responsiveness marries with compliance. Demonstrate your understanding. of your customer's needs. So weave it throughout your document, whether you use it with win themes or call outs. Name your customer throughout your document. Don't always start with we are the best, or GRC can and GRC will and GRC is the best. Name your customer, address their hot buttons, show the benefit of your solution, how it will make their life easier.
I didn't think of being customer focused as being part of compliance. Because for me, compliance is often those things you must do. You don't necessarily want to do it, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see that being customer focused is a tool in this compliance and responsiveness toolbox.
If you are not customer focused, if you are not looking at all of the requirements stated first of all, I mean, that is the focus. The client has gone through the effort of preparing an RFP for you. And if you don't focus on what they've sent you and prepared for you, and you are neglecting that, you have no customer focus, and the client will clearly see that. So it's important, apart from the content that you put into your proposal, how you write it, how you present it, is important to address all of those compliance requirements. And if you are clever, you can also weave your compliance. For instance, if there's a requirement for you to be a BEE level 2, you can weave that into your win themes. You can start a section by showing that up to your client. So it just confirms that you understand compliance for this particular proposal that you are preparing, and that you understand the client's needs. So the responsiveness added to that BEE compliance requirement is, why would that be important for the client, so that they can attain whatever it is that they need to attain through the supply chain processes, or whatever the case might be.
I would want to add a 7th tool in this toolbox. This is like the duct tape of tools, because you can do anything with it. Submit on time. Because you know what? You could go through all of this. You can be compliant and responsive and customer focused, and you can have the beautiful compliance matrix. But if you don't submit on time, it's for naught. So it may not be a compliance best practice or tool per se, but I would add this duct tape of tools into this toolbox.
Yes, and I want to add, you can tape your box with duct tape as well, because I have seen proposals being carried up the steps in the last minute to be submitted at a client site, and then the entire bottom of the box just falls out and the entire proposal just spills out on the sideway. It's, but it remains the biggest challenge in compliance, because it is a compliance requirement, even though the APMP hasn't listed it as a best practice. It is a compliance requirement, because if you are 1 minute late, you are late and you will not win it. So to overcome this challenge, and again, I come back to be proactive and begin with the end in mind, is start your proposal preparation process early. Plan. Set clear milestones for your deliverables. Work with your team of experts to ensure that you can complete your proposal on time and drive it. Proposal managers are very good project managers.
Yeah.
So drive those milestones, and don't be timid about it, because at the end of the day, you are responsible to submit that proposal and submit it on time. And it is an important document. It grows your company's revenue pipeline. If you miss this one, you've missed an opportunity to make money.
For the next 3 or 5 years in some cases. Yes.
Absolutely.
So this compliance matrix template that we briefly spoke about, I like to use an expanded matrix. What's your opinion on that? And perhaps you want to explain first to our audience what an expanded matrix is, but mostly I'd like to know, what is your opinion on an expanded compliance matrix?
Izan, so when people think of a compliance matrix, they think of a tick box, comply, yes, comply, no, or what the case, well, hopefully always yes, yes, yes. But an expanded compliance matrix is a wonderful tool. I think of it as a smart tool because it makes it not just easier for the evaluators to find your information, but it creates another opportunity for you to promote your benefits and your win themes. Yes, even in your compliance matrix, you can do that. It helps you organize. So the purpose of a compliance matrix is to help you organize your proposal. It creates a roadmap, as we've mentioned. And you can demonstrate your compliance to your client. So you can say, I comply with BEE level 2, and then you can write why you comply and how that is beneficial to the client and where you've included that particular compliance requirement in your proposal. Remember, it's a roadmap. Yeah. So it really is a smart tool. It makes it easy for evaluators to find the necessary information and find it quickly. So that they don't have to, they open up your proposal and they check all your compliance requirements. And now you've listed it and you've shown them where it is, and they can quickly check and make sure that it is indeed where you said it would be. To create a comprehensive compliance matrix, it's not just listing all the obvious stuff, but it's also finding and uncovering all the hidden requirements that is often woven into an RFP, and bringing that out and placing that into your compliance matrix, because clients will often have a list of what they want you to comply, and then these
like
are
your
those
evaluation criteria.
Exactly. And then these other components that's not in that list that you will only find if you go through. And it's a good strategy to bring those out and put them in your compliance matrix. And they also show your responsiveness then also starts there in your compliance matrix. It's a great way, of course, as I've said, to show your client how your offer complies with with their requirements. It's a great opportunity to restate the win themes that you've already highlighted in your executive summary, and especially if you add it after your executive summary. So you restate. The mind is a funny thing. The more you tell someone about something, and this is something that we've all learned in marketing, promote, and in the end, there's almost like no question on what you're going to buy. So we have to appoint this person. So it really shows your evaluator what's happening in your proposal. I always like to add a compliance matrix right after the executive summary. And it shows them where they will find the information that they need to find, particularly if they have to quickly scan through your document. So to conclude, I think it's not just a tick box. It should never be a tick box. It's another opportunity to sell to your potential client. And I think that is what is important.
It's sounding a little complicated, this to be compliant and responsive and weave in your win themes and be customer focused. Don't you think it's complicated?
In most cases, it's not complicated. But again, it requires preparation and diligence. And again, getting back to being proactive and beginning with the end in mind. The most common challenges in proposals is to understand the requirements and guidelines provided in the RFP. Read your RFP.
Sometimes they're conflicting or confusing or not very clear. Ambiguous, that's the word I'm looking for. Sometimes the client's requirements are ambiguous. What do we do then?
You clarify it with your client. You ask your client about it. If you've For instance, if you've presented a proposal to a previous client, if you've presented previously a proposal to the same client, you can go back to that proposal, especially if it was a winning proposal, and see how they have dealt with that requirement or whether they've dealt with that requirement in the past. So, but ask your client. You have that opportunity in most cases to ask clarification questions. Don't be shy to do that. It's a good opportunity for you to interact with your client and again show that you really do want to address all their needs. So review examples of successful proposals that you've submitted before, and it will help you get a better understanding. And then also remember when you've worked with proposals, update the content that you've previously prepared in a successful proposal to a content library that will also give you access to that information and help you to be better prepared and better attend to your compliance and responsiveness requirements. In fact, I think it actually increases your ability to prepare a compliant proposal, and it allows you more time to create compelling content and gives you more time to review. And for me, I think solving compliance issues and challenges is you have to have time to review, because that there's always something that comes up. There's always that last minute thing. And if you have time to review and, you can go over it again then, and you can change before you need to submit, that's always a good thing.
I think one of the mistakes I made in the beginning of my career when it comes to reviews is not leaving enough time to take the lessons or the input from the review and incorporate that in your response, because it doesn't help. I give you something to review, you tell me there's 10 mistakes, and I don't have time to fix those mistakes in the document or in the solution or in the pricing.
Yeah. I think you can still get away with not dotting the I and crossing the T literally, or putting a full stop at the end of a sentence. But you need to make sure that you have the client's name correct. You need to make sure that when they've asked for a certain expert to be a part of your proposal, that you have got that expert in your proposal, that you've got the details correctly. And particularly in pricing, you need to review your pricing, because it's also a compliance requirement. You can't offer, if your solution is going to cost the client 20 million, please check all the digits. Don't write 2 million or 20,000.
Yes.
It's a huge mistake. Don't do that. So I think, Izan, if I have to sum up compliance and responsiveness, yes, they are essential components, because you can't get through the first gate without them, and you want to get through the first gate. They won't necessarily guarantee you will win, but non-compliance guarantees that you won't win.
It'll take you out of the game.
It takes you out of the game. And it is important to understand that if you follow best practices and you overcome common challenges, you can increase your organization's revenue pipeline. And in the end of the day, that is why you submit a proposal. You're not just doing it because you've got nothing else to do. You play, as a proposal professional, you play a very important role in increasing your company's bottom line.
Creating and retaining jobs and improving lives. Yeah.
Yes.
So, Alfreda, thank you so much. I thought I knew everything, a lot about compliance, but thank you very much. I'm so glad that you shared this with us. We do have a few resources available. I'm going to put on screen in a minute or two. I'll put the QR codes to download the compliance matrix.
And may I interrupt?
Yes.
Yeah, there was just, Alfreda and Izan, there was just a question from Cheryl Ann again, maybe before we say goodbye, and if there are any other questions, please post them. We will quickly go through them. We still have a few minutes left. Cheryl Ann asked, the level of experience requirements sometimes ridiculous. What
Yeah.
advice would you give within compliance context if you have 2 years and request 4? Do you pull out?
So it's a tough one. My first answer is yes. If you don't comply to everything, especially if it's a clearly stated requirement on the client side, the odds are against you. The chances of them disqualifying you for not meeting those minimum requirements are big. Will they? Maybe, maybe not. Can they? Yes, they can. So although it might be terrible to pass up on this opportunity, when you think about the time and the resources you have available in your organization, if you're a one-man band or 1,000-man band, doesn't matter. Go for the opportunities where you have a bigger chance of winning. And I think compliance, like Alfreda has said, is it's an indicator of how it's an indicator of whether you can win this or not. If you don't comply, the odds of you losing that deal is big and risky. And I would not take that chance. If there's some way where you can mitigate that, because now it's a compliance matter, but it's also a risk. Can you mitigate it? For example, suppose it is a question of having a specific individual in your company with X amount of years of experience. And right now, you only have someone with 2 years experience. But you know, you've already recruited somebody else who's starting in a month's time. You could include that in your response to mitigate that risk and to show that you might not be compliant right now, but that your plans are already in place to be compliant by a specific date. I cannot guarantee that that answer will be accepted by the client, but it's a way to mitigate that. I hope that answered your question.
Izan, I can add something to that. So this is a good opportunity to also engage with your client and ask the question to say that whether the requirements that they've stated for a certain position seems to be overqualified or onerous, or what the case might be, and whether it would be acceptable to utilize a person with 2 years experience to 2 years relevant experience. So very important, relevant experience. But again, non-compliance is always a risk, but utilize the opportunity to clarify that with your client. And if the client provides you with a response, fantastic. If they don't, you can submit that person. But as Izan mentioned, the chances of you being disqualified because of that, or not disqualified, you will probably not receive all the points you will for a position. So that basically means that your score at the end of the day will be less, and then you would need to make sure that somewhere else in your proposal you get full marks in terms of the evaluation criteria.
Okay. Thanks, Alfreda. So we can definitely take more questions. I just want to explain what the resources are that we have available and when they'll be available. So I'm going to put on screen in a minute or two a QR code to download the compliance matrix template. There's also a QR code for tips on using a compliance matrix. The recording of this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel and on our website by Monday. And Alfreda has also prepared a summarized presentation of our discussion today. So that will also be available on our website by Monday. So 2 resources already available, and then the recording and the summarized presentation of today's discussion will be available on Monday. We do have a few more minutes, so I'm very happy for anybody else who has a question or something that they want to clarify. If not, we are hosting our next webinar on the 11th of May, which will be about public sector procurement. And it seems that we could have a webinar on public sector procurement every week, and it will be different because of the changes and the rapid changes taking place in our public sector procurement landscape. And our guest speakers on that webinar will be Sean Scott, a supply chain procurement professional, and Larissa Cornelius, Win Strategist at Enfold. She was also awarded as a proposal specialist, Africa's a leading woman in procurement. Let me get that right, pardon. Leading procurement female in Africa. So people who know about public sector procurement. If there aren't any more questions, I'm going to put the compliance matrix and tips on the screen. And please, yes, do visit our website again and take note of LinkedIn, because the registration for the public sector procurement webinar will be on our website and on LinkedIn. All right, so let me just get that on screen share.
Okay, thank you everyone. It's been a privilege to present this information to you today, and please go to our website or visit the APMP and equip yourself with the necessary knowledge so that you can improve how you do proposals and improve your win rate. From me, that's it. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a fantastic day and stay compliant. Bye-bye.
And be responsive.
Be responsive.